What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Steven Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt practice report. The Panthers will kick off ACC play this weekend against North Carolina at Acrisure Stadium, and we're still talking offense. That's, you know, unsurprisingly, the biggest concern for this team going into ACC play in week 4. But our conversations with players and coaches this week have shifted a little bit. They pointed a bit different direction. We talked a lot about quarterbacks, but let's start somewhere different this time. This week, we talked to Andre Powell and Rodney Hammond about the running backs, how they're used, what they're used for, and how they can help to this offense do a little bit better and put up some more points. So we talked following West Virginia, and this has been kind of my I would call it like a pet issue. The quarterback is the quarterback situation is the quarterback situation. I think everything that has been said or could be said has been said about that deal and about Phil Dracovic and Christian Bayer and Pat Narduzzi and Frank Signetti's decisions to manage their personnel there. But I've been a little baffled by the running back order and the running back rotation through the first 3 weeks of the season. And again, I said this after West Virginia, but where was Rodney Hammond? He disappeared almost after the first drive. He took 7 carries for 41 yards in the opening drive that resulted in 3 points. And then he had 7 carries over the remaining 53 minutes of game time. Hammond told us today that, quote, they have a plan for him. He declined to share specifics, but said that he's content in his role as long as it leads to winning, which that hasn't been the case so far. But above all else, it's not, Rodney demanding more carries. It's not him being upset with how the offense has been distributed or how many carries or touches he's getting. But clearly he is not the featured back, that we expected, or I guess most people expected him to be when the season began. He's ended up splitting more time with Sibo Flemister and Daniel Carter. Sibo kind of has more loose role as a second back, but he's been pretty good. 5.7 yards per carry against West Virginia, 5.8 yards per touch. That includes 17.5 yards on each of his 2 catches. I think he's a good pass catcher in that sense too, but also a really capable runner. Got some power and some speed and some quickness. So, he's been in that role. But kind of behind him, and who I guess we'll get to this in a second, has kind of emerged and started to take on more of the actual rushing and more of the carries over the past couple of weeks. But Carter's role is the one that I wouldn't say confused about. We got some clarity about it this week, but just one that I'm not sure I completely agree with. Carter's been the third down back. I think you saw that a lot against West Virginia. Andre Powell said that it was primarily because they saw some exotic looks over the past couple of weeks, some exotic pressures on third down that Carter, who's really smart, has a high football IQ. He was better able to kind of sort those out and help the line get in the right places that they needed to be to protect Phil Dracovic. I will say that I don't think Daniel Carter had his best game against West Virginia. He didn't really show much playmaking ability, which is kind of important as a third down back. He is a very smart guy. I don't doubt that at all. He's been very versatile and a big contributor on a lot of Pitt teams that he's been on. But look, if you're going to be out there on third down, you got to be able to catch passes, make guys miss, and get first downs. And that was just not something that Carter did against the Mountaineers. But that brings me to my next point, which is that I wonder how this rotation starts to change a little bit this week against North Carolina. Pitt has begun to slowly kind of tighten up that running back rotation. I can read you off the how many carries each of those top 3 backs have gotten over the past 3 weeks. So against Wofford, Hammond just had 5, Flemister 9, and Carter 11. Against Cincinnati, Hammond had 6 carries. Everyone had 6 carries, actually. That's Hammond, Flemister, Carter, each was 6. And then against West Virginia, Rodney had 14, Sibo 6, and Carter 4, although Dan Carter did also have 5 targets. He didn't catch any of those. That leaves us with a total of 25 carries for Hammond, 21 carries for Flemister, and 21 carries for Carter through 3 weeks. I don't really know what's taking them so long, but in the absence of anything really from the passing game, they need a strong run game, and they are not getting that right now. And I don't think that doing this three back rotation has really helped them at all. There are kind of too many cooks in the kitchen, I expect this kind of growing carry disparity to continue in that same direction with Hammond really rising to the top, and then Flemister kind of taking a smaller share and Daniel Carter becoming a less significant part of the offense as he's been right now. Um, I love Sebo and Rodney as your top two. I think that works is like, a 70-30 split or even a 60-40 split in terms of carries between Rodney getting most of them and then Sebo kind of picking up the slack there. Rodney said they could both, him and Sebo can both play winning football, and I think that's really true. I'm a fan of Sebo's. I think he's got a diverse skill set. I think especially as a pass catcher, he brings something a little different than Rodney does. Rodney's more of a true runner, I think, true running back. Where Sebo gives you something a little different there, but both hard runners, both have some speed and some power. So I think it makes sense to have both those guys as your top two. Well, Daniel Carter goes back to being more of a situational guy. I understand what they like about him. He is smart, like I said. He's got a pretty versatile skill set. He's a much better runner, I think, this year after he lost some weight and is moving a little bit better. But still, he's a fine player, just not as good a runner as Rodney or Sebo are. And that's not meant to be a slight to Daniel. Like I said, I think he can still be a good player, but the fact of the matter remains that Rodney's your best runner, Sebo's your second best runner, and there's not much room for a third guy in there. With your back against the wall like Pitt has right now, not just in terms of the record, but again, in terms of, you know, uh, uh, where the offense is right now and where they're getting their production from. Their backs are against the wall, and this is just how it has to be. You got to fit your two best guys at this position into the offense and get them their carries. Depth is good, but it's a matter, I think, of if you have three running backs, you don't have one. That's not always true, but I think it is in this situation because I just don't think that taking away carries from Rodney to give them to Daniel Carter is helping this team right now. There's a lot of talk about the rotation and keeping people fresh. Pat Narduzzi said that. Andre Powell said that. Rodney Hammond as well. But I want to know what we're keeping guys fresh for, if not to run guys over, run the ball, take the most of the carries. You know, uh, Keeping guys fresh is good, but only to a certain extent. And when the games start to matter, and they really matter now. You can yes, Cincinnati and West Virginia mattered, but they don't matter in the same way that ACC play does. You know, that's a big Pat Narduzzi line where they'd lose a couple games in the non-conference schedule and then say, "Oh, but we've got full ACC, season starts now," or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but I think there is some truth to that now. You know, ACC is how I think we've really judged good and bad Pat Narduzzi teams in the past. They schedule their non-conference slate. They make it really difficult. And ACC play feels like when you really start to be able to judge just how good or bad any given Pitt team is. So, with that in mind, this is when the games start to really matter. You got a ranked opponent coming in, the first ranked opponent of the year, ACC game, home opener, trying to get not just the offense but the entire team back on track. Like for any number of reasons, this is a huge game for Pitt, and it could be the moment they start to like turn around their season, or it could be where they flop and sink even lower. So just from that standpoint alone, I think it's time to treat the games like they really matter and stop experimenting with this three back rotation and just give the ball to your best players. Like there is a reason that Rodney, week in and week out, is the number one tailback on the depth chart. He should be treated that way. If not, then everyone should just be an or. Sebo and Daniel Carter have ors next to their name on the depth chart. Rodney doesn't. Rodney is the surefire starter, and I think he's got to start being treated that way. So we'll see if that changes in time for North Carolina. I expect it to, and I think the Panthers are really starting to get serious about tightening up that rotation and getting their best 11 on the field at all times. But we'll see how it all shakes out. And so with that, I'm headed out of here. Thanks for tuning into another Inside Pitt practice report. I'll have one more for you on Friday morning after Pat Narduzzi gives his final briefing of the week, and then We'll talk about the North Carolina game, good, bad, and the ugly, regardless of outcome after the game on Saturday. So, like I said, thanks for tuning in again. Link sure to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@InsideThePanthers. And you can find all the reporting from UNC Week at InsideThePanthers.com. Until next time, see you.